All right, so it's been about a month since we introduced you to our N600 here. And with the seasons changing and winter fast approaching, we want to get into this thing and get it running before the snow hits the ground and we have no hope of taking this thing out. So the reason it's been so long is because I've found online there's not a lot of information about this car as far as going on forums or message boards and particular how-tos on the inner workings of this car. So what I had to do was get on eBay every day and make sure I could find one of these. An original shop manual for the Honda N600. Everything I need to know about how this car works, how it's put together, from various thread pitches to torque sequences, everything is in this book. So now that we have this, well, we're ready to get started. All right, so following the step-by-step how-to sequence listed in our shop manual, we're gonna get right into it today and take this crusty old motor out of this thing, all right? This has gotta go. I got plenty of cans of PB Blaster on hand and a torch if need be, so honestly, place your bets now on how many bolts we crack. This is about to come out. First thing we wanna do is get the hood out of the way. The nice thing about so many older cars is that they make it pretty easy to do that. If you're gonna be under the hood for a long day, it's easier just to get it out of the way entirely. You'll thank yourself. Per the instructions in the shop manual, you want to disconnect all the electrical hookups, vacuum lines, cables, and hoses first. It's important to double check that you get them all because it's especially annoying when you realize you missed one of them and the motor's just hanging in the air. So it's important to make sure you avoid that. And in doing this, it's becoming obvious to me that this car is going to have to be completely rewired. But that's to be expected on anything that's been sitting this long. Now that that's done, we're moving inside the disconnected gear shift rod from the back of the transmission. That's at the firewall on the bottom of the car. At my size, contorting yourself into this space is a chore. But the actual removal is pretty straightforward once you wedge yourself in there. Walking back to step one a bit, we're going to be removing the carb and throttle linkage from the motor now. And boy, is this carb crusty. This is going to need a major going through, but I won't consider it a loss. Add it to the list. Now we're getting to the point where things are going to get fun. It's time to start dismounting the motor from the car. Ultimately, we're removing the entire assembly from the car via the subframe. And once again, thanks to our trusty shop manual, it's advised that you jack the car up 28.7 inches from the floor so you have enough space to slide the assembly out once it drops to the floor. Very useful information here. And with the measurement that exact, it has to be right, right? So now we make sure everything gets coated in liberal amounts of PB Blaster. We don't want anything snagging up or snapping if we can avoid it. Bolts this old and this crucial require finesse and patience. Cavemaning the thing will just put you at a major disadvantage if you fuck something up. Now we remove the wheels. Now the service manual offers a procedure on removing the subframe in a way that the brake assembly and suspension stays in place. But we want to address these parts in total when the motor comes out, so I'm going to remove the whole thing at once. So down here, all I'm going to do is disconnect the steering arms with a trusty pickle fork, mutilating these already ruined ball joints. And we got to unhook the brake lines too, with the help of a little heat. Next, we unbolt the struts from the body of the car so there's no hang-ups overhead. And then we move right into the crucial moment, dropping the subframe. It's important now to employ the help of another set of hands and eyes in the process. Thankfully, my shopmate Jesse just got home from work, so he's able to lend some help. The rear subframe bolts run up through the firewall, So while you wrench from below, someone inside the car needs to steady the bolt head for you. Otherwise, you're gonna have no shot at spinning these things loose or salvaging any patience. And once all your subframe bolts are loose, it's time to hold your breath and start letting the motor down with your shop jack. This thing's got over 2 feet to travel to the floor, and once it starts moving, it's gonna start moving, so be careful. We actually readied another pair of jack stands under the car just in case we shook things off kilter here. Yeah, remember Honda's precise elevation for engine removal? Well, it turns out that was wrong, and by a few inches. Thankfully, we were able to borrow a couple extra jacks from our neighbor across the street, and we righted that wrong pretty quick. Now that the entire front end is out, we're gonna have to improvise a steering rig with these shop dollies for now. You know, and crack a beer and marvel for a moment at the fruits of our labor. All right, that wasn't so bad. We followed the book, we did everything to spec, and we had this thing out in an afternoon. No major snags, no hang-ups. That being said, now that it's out, this thing is a fucking mess. So we got our work cut out for us. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed and upgraded, and beyond the motor we got from Tim, this is gonna need a lot more attention than I thought. But that's okay, it's an invitation for upgrades. So the next time we see you, we're gonna get back into it with a lot of new options in front of us. So we'll see you then.